Hi everyone, I'm Heather with Anchor's Treasures, and we're here in my studio today talking about my new book called Angles with Ease and my new ruler called the Triangler. They work together to create lots of unique quilts and projects, and the inspiration behind the book started when I began playing with a kaleidoscope shaped ruler, and I discovered that there are lots of options that you can make with this ruler. You can use it to cut trees and diamonds, you can cut hexagons, tumblers, lots of fun shapes like that. You can also take strip units and use the ruler to cut those strip units into some real unique looking blocks to create pieced stars, pinwheels, paddle wheels, fun things like that. So I'm going to begin with a couple demo boards and walk you through some of the easy steps that are used to make these projects. I'm going to demonstrate first the spin cycle quilt, and my husband Joel, who's running the camera, is going to zoom in on the book because I don't happen to have this quilt here right now. Many of the quilts are out traveling on trunk shows, going from shop to shop, demonstrating the technique, but it's a fun little pinwheel looking block. It begins with this simple strip unit, and each of these strip units has been carefully calculated where each strip is a different width depending on the angle. From each strip unit you'll be able to cut out one complete block, and the size of the strips is also determined by which of the angled lines you're going to use on the ruler. There is an A line and a B line, both going diagonally, and in this case you're going to lay your A line and align that up with your seam line and cut around the ruler. You're going to continue down along your strip unit until the whole thing is cut into little triangles like this. Then you're going to take those triangles and lay them out into a circle to complete the block. Now this is a very easy technique to make something with these unique looking angles. Just think of the way that we were taught years ago. You cut out templates and then you tried to align all these bias pieces, you cut everything individually, and then you hope that they somehow turned out the same size in the end. With this technique they all turn out perfect. You don't have to worry about sewing those bias edges together. If you can make a strip unit, you can make the foundation to make these pieces. Now once you sew them together, there is a point in the middle that you have to get all those little points aligned. But if you have a beginner who feels a little bit less confident in that, you can always have them applique a little circle over the center of those points and nobody will know if there's a little bit of mismatching going on behind those pieces. The next one we're going to talk about is the cover quilt, and that's the one I have laying on the table here. It's called Cosmo, and it uses the A-line on the ruler as well. But the thing that's different about this one is we make two little strip units and you lay them wrong sides together like so. Again, you're going to lay your ruler down, line up the seam line and cut around it, and cut out the pieces that you need. Now you're automatically going to get the reverses necessary because you're laying your strips wrong sides together. And you're going to end up with little pieces that look like this after you sew those two together. And the other little thing I did with this one is I did a folded corner. So you start with a square, sew diagonally from corner to corner, and then flip it over. And that's how I got the secondary little square that happens in the middle there. Now with this one you'll notice that there is a little bit of waste happening here on the corners. And if you save that, there is a little project, a bonus project from the book, where you can sew those little triangles into this fun little quilt. So for those of your customers that don't like to have scraps and don't like to waste fabric, there's already a little project all planned for you. Okay, moving on to the next one. This one is called Sunday Spin. This one again uses strip units. In this case we're going to use the B line on the ruler. And I'm going to show you how that starts out. You just make a strip unit that looks like this. Now again, the setbacks are different and the width on the strip is a little different because we're going to use the B line on the ruler. Once again, you're going to lay those pieces wrong side together. Then you're going to take your ruler and again line up one of those diagonal lines with the seam line, and you're going to cut out your little pieces. Now because they are laid wrong sides together, you automatically get those reverses. And then you can sew them into pairs like I have here. And that's how you make those pieces for the block. Now I also have a little demo showing what would look like if you would sew the whole block together. It forms an octagon, but you can also just sew simple 45-degree triangles on the corner and it becomes a square block. It makes it a little bit simpler for beginners to work with squares as opposed to the octagons. But this particular shape is also used on the cover quilt, and this is constructed in rows. There are no Y seams, you only sew half blocks. Sew those half blocks into rows and then sew them together to complete the quilt. The next one I want to show you, get everything out of the way here, is this little star topper. It's called Rising Star Topper. This one is a great one for classes or retreats or kits. It requires 3 fat quarters to make the center of the block and a 1/2 yard cut of the background, the border, and the binding. So it's a great one to kit. I have my little strip unit ready to go here. I have it laid out. And in this case, you don't use any of the diagonal lines on the ruler. You just lay the ruler on your strip unit and cut on either side. Flip the ruler, cut again, flip the ruler, cut again, to where you get all pieces that look like this. And I have that one going over here. You can see how you would just lay those pieces out to form your star and put that together. Now I also have a little size option to show in this one. I haven't mentioned yet, but the book includes lots of different size options, from toppers to wall quilts to queen size quilts, so all that complicated math is done for you. There are 33 size options that are in the book, so this is the wall quilt from that particular design. Next, let's talk about some of the shapes that you can cut from the ruler that aren't done with strip units. The first one is this little bit more traditional kaleidoscope looking quilt. And I have a demo board prepared for this one as well. So you are simply going to cut large triangles and small triangles with the kaleidoscope ruler. Sew them together to form a block that looks like this. Then you're going to lay your 9.5 inch square on top and square it up. So you'll be cutting off these little pieces here. And what's nice about that is each block turns out exactly the right size because you're squaring it up at the end. And again, if you have trouble getting those little intersections lined up, you can applique a little square or a circle to cover up those points. As you can see in this quilt, I've used the little square to cover up my little points, so nobody knows if they're matched or not. Then I also want to talk about how you can cut the strips into different shapes. So in this case, I have a wider strip, and you can just lay the ruler on top, and you're going to cut full triangles with that, like so, and then you would flip the ruler and work your way across the strip until the whole thing is cut. And this would be used to make diamonds or trees. For example, this little runner is done with those trees. There's also a little bit different size option. You can make the larger wall quilt, and you can see here we've got the diamonds and the trees happening. You can also use a smaller strip unit, and you align the ruler just a little bit differently to cut the tumbler shape from it, and that's what's used to make the hourglass quilt and runner. You can also take a skinnier strip and cut it into half hexagons, and that's what I used to make this quilt. And there are lots of size options in this one again. So you can see there are lots of options for this ruler, and we hope the triangular will give you confidence to try out all these different fun angles. For you shop owners who would like to try this as a retreat or class, we have a demo cheat sheet prepared, so if you want to create the little boards that we showed in today's video, you can email us and we will email you the little cheat sheet on how to set up that demo. And thank you for watching, and again, look for our Angles with Ease book and our new ruler, the Triangler.